Ryan Weiss, thanks for coming back again, man. I didn't scare you away the first time.
Not at all. This time I'm trying to grow my beard, my quarantine beard. For those of you that have trouble growing beards, I feel your pain.
Yeah, I wish mine would slow down because I'm starting to look like a mountain man here, and I don't know. I'm being lazy because like this, I hate this how it's like coming onto my lip, the mustache part, and I hate that like I've got a weird mustache like. You know, like there's the guys that have like that really sharp mustache, you know, like they could pull off having just a mustache. Mine just looks like a weird, creepy pedophile mustache. So I'm like, nope, not doing it. So yeah, I will never have just a mustache. But good for you growing out the beard, man. I say beards increase attractiveness on males. I'm told from females by like 67%. It's a big percentage, gentlemen.
Trying it out, it's very itchy.
Give it another. If you have trouble growing them out, give it another 3 to 6 months, and the itchiness will go away. Oh man! All right, so for people that didn't watch the last one, I had you join me with Rob Ray. You and Rob Ray, I would say, go way back. I mean, you guys have done some online stuff together. I think you've also done some in-person stuff together. You're a huge Datto fan, and that's totally cool. I like Datto too. In fact, look, you're repping the shirt, man.
Oh yeah.
So
this was the most comfortable yet semi-professional thing I felt like I could put on this morning.
I went the complete opposite direction. I'm wearing my adulting should be optional T-shirt.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So yeah, adulting. When you're in a quarantine type situation, I feel like adulting absolutely should be optional. This just kind of sucks. I'm curious, like, how is this impacting you? I don't want to say professionally, but I don't want to say personally either. How do I want to word this? So how is this impacting you and like your productivity, like personal productivity?
It's got ups and downs. There's moments where I've got a ton of motivation to get a lot of stuff done, but there's also moments where I feel like I'm kind of on the ledge of if I get interrupted enough, I might just give up for the day. Just because there are aspects of working from home that are harder with certain interruptions, right? Absolutely. I have a 9-year-old daughter who's also homeschooling. Then I have my wife's working with me too, right next to me. And she actually just started working with me right before this. So she's still kind of in an onboarding mode where she's not quite settled yet. So she needs a lot of my help too. So I try to pick and choose when I'm going to be doing certain projects to make sure I've got complete focus. Because even though I'm working from home and a lot of my employees tell me they're more productive working from home with less interruptions, I've still got some interruptions I'm dealing with.
Good for you. Speaking of interruptions, I sometimes forget to like close all my windows.
Oh yeah.
It makes me feel really dumb. So like I've got all this like Facebook Messenger bloop, 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 like in the background. So I had to go close all those real quick. I apologize for if it looked like I wasn't giving you my complete attention, because I wasn't. I was busy closing everything. So I feel your pain, man. I mean, I've got the 7 and the 14-year-old. So my 14-year-old daughter, she's old enough to like practically hate us, hate, because she's a teenager. So everything we do is stupid. And then our 7-year-old, he's in that like rebellious stage where I don't even know how to describe, like, so for those of you that don't know, I think Brian, but like our kids are adopted. We were foster parents first. So like we didn't have either of them from like birth. We had her move in when she was like 9. He moved in when he was like 4. So, I mean, he's a little behind. So, like, I feel like last year he went through like the 3s where everything's no. Like that's what last year was like. So this year he's almost like in that 4s and 5s stage where he just wants to battle over everything. And he's right and you're wrong about everything, but it's like little kid everything. So it's, you know, he's arguing with me about like, I can't even think of the last thing we argued about, but it's just so stupid. It's like he comes over here and he's talking to me about like, you know, dinosaurs with robots existing at the same time. And like, yeah, they did that. I'm like, all right, dude, whatever. Like, just go play with your Legos. I don't know what to do with that. Like, there's no there's just like no arguing with that because it's just so batshit crazy. I don't know what to do with that. So I just don't.
You got to pick your battles.
Oh, absolutely. That's you know, my wife and I talk about picking our battles all the time when it comes to her daughter because, you know, at 14, it's like, you know, we're still in that like, all right, we got to teach her how to like thrive and you know, succeed as an adult. But she's old enough that she's formed her own opinion on how things should work. So like it's constantly a struggle with this is the right way to do this, and like wanting to yell at her for doing it the wrong way. But we constantly have that argument of she just needs to screw up and learn the hard way if she's not going to listen. Like, why are we getting so bent out of shape if she's not gonna do the homework right, and she'll get a bad grade and she'll learn. She'll take it all again next year. So I'm not sure how that's how it works with No Child Left Behind.
I know that's how it works with me, with the entrepreneurial, you know, spirit. I tend to be a little stubborn with things, you know, and this way seems the right way to do it, and I'm set on it until I either waste enough time or make a mistake to realize, oh, what everyone's been telling me makes sense now. Why did I try to, you know, do it that way? You know, it's just that feeling that you have something right and you want to go with it, and realizing that, oh, maybe that's not the best way to do it. You know? That's what I really like about our community, the MSP community. Even though we're all competitors, I feel like we're this big community willing to help each other out and try to prevent each other from making mistakes that we've made in the past. And, you know, especially when it comes to picking certain tools.
We're like frenemies.
Yeah.
So, speaking, you know, I feel like that's a great segue, Brian. Thank you for that. You know, you said we're having a group of MSPs to talk with and like learn from their mistakes is awesome, you know. And I hear you've had, unfortunately, a pretty big mistake. I don't know if it was a mistake, but you had a big issue. You had a data breach within your MSP. So what happened, man? Were you just like really lax? Like everyone's password was password 123 with an exclamation point? Like how does an MSP get a data breach?
So we can call me an early adopter of the breach situation because mine happened March of 2018 before it really started taking off. And it was really just around MFA. We were on an RMM that didn't have MFA. We did recognize the vulnerability, and the RMM at the time required a third-party application that was going to require a lot of setup for MFA that we didn't want to deal with. Plus, we were kind of fed up with the RMM, so we moved to a new RMM that had MFA built in. And we were literally luckily, maybe not unluckily, we had about half of our clients move to the new RMM by the time this happened. So only half of our clients were affected. that were still on the old RMM. And what happened was there was a phishing email that was sent to one of my employees that they fell for. We didn't have other layers of security that we now have in place, like probably DNS filtering would have prevented that. The MFA obviously would have prevented that. So they got into the RMM and literally over a weekend just logged in and out of as many machines as they could. It was about 113 machines across 37 clients, and disabled the antivirus because they had administrator access. The RMM we were previously on, if you didn't log out of the session, if you just like closed the X on the window, it left the session logged in. So you could literally take over that session just by re-initiating another remote console. So that's why they only hit 113, is because they were going in and out seeing which consoles were logged in. Because luckily they didn't have end user or administrator passwords, but anyone that left their console logged in, they could take over, right? So yeah, they disabled the antivirus, and they deployed what looked to be a delayed payload of ransomware, because we have a lot of these clients work through the weekend, and we didn't hear, it was crickets until Monday morning. And then it was like everything just blew up, like literally one call after the other. And when we looked back at like the timing of everything, it looked like it wasn't really kicking off till Monday morning. So it was almost like they didn't want us to know what they were doing all weekend so that they could get into as many machines as possible, because they knew there was a single threat vector, or RMM, that we could just cut off if we wanted. So, and then they knew Monday morning, right, everyone's back to work, they better get that thing deployed so they can cause damage and try to collect money.
That is insane.
The other thing they did is they looked on the network for local backups, which at the time, another issue we had is the same account that was like administrator for a server was also the same account used on our backup device, same credentials, they're part of the domain. Now we have separate credentials. We use a separate set of credentials for our backup devices versus, admin on the server. So they were able to delete local backups on the network as well. So luckily we had backups of backups for 36 out of 37 of the clients. We only had to pay ransomware for one of the clients, and then later another client, because one of their backups wasn't completely usable.
So you ended up paying the ransom out of your pocket because it was your FO, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So talk to me about like what does ransom cost? Like, because I remember, it was like send me, I think it was the equivalent of like $800 in Bitcoin when they ransom a computer. So like that couldn't have been too bad then, So you had to pay for 2 clients. That's a couple $1,000s you have to spend on this. And that's not too bad, right?
Well, at the time, Bitcoin, so this is back in 2018. It's done a little differently now. And back in those times, they didn't really define a dollar amount like I'm seeing them doing now. Now they've gotten privy to the idea that Bitcoin goes up and down. It's so volatile that what they care more about is a dollar amount. But back then, it was like 1 Bitcoin is what they wanted. And
that sounds expensive.
At that time, well, now it wouldn't be as expensive, but at that time, a Bitcoin was like around 10 grand per client, right? So if you got 37 clients, that's a ton of money.
Did you pay for every client?
No, just 2 clients.
Okay, that's what I thought. I got nervous when you said 37. Well,
I'm just saying, when you think of that idea of having to pay that for 37 clients when you're looking at a Bitcoin per client, initially you're like, restore from backups, avoid paying, ransom. And the general premise is you don't want to pay the ransom anyway, because it promotes that behavior to continue, right?
Right. So, and I'm sure they got super excited when they logged in for like 37 clients, 37 Bitcoins, $10,000. So as long as all goes well, we're going to make, over $250,000.
Yeah.
So it didn't go as the hacker had planned. They only got $20,000 out of it.
Yeah, but what was interesting, it was a huge learning experience. Number one, we didn't have any breach remediation procedures in place for something like this. We'd never been, we had no direction from our insurance company really, because it was so new. And so we were kind of just creating our breach remediation procedures on the fly and it was like the biggest fire drill we'd ever been through. It was about a 2-week remediation, dealing with restoring backups and getting people back up and running. And by the end of that 2 weeks, what we had realized is that we could have negotiated the ransom. Like
that's a thing?
That's a thing. And they actually, nowadays, the insurance companies, now that insurance companies are privy to this, they have ransomware negotiators. They will get involved and help you, and basically negotiate the price down for you.
That's literally like a hostage negotiator for your computers.
Yeah. And so I realized that on the second client, because I was hesitant wanting to pay it for the second client because we had a decent chunk of their data. It was just some of it was missing. And all of a sudden, the ransomware guy started negotiating with us. Well, how about if I bring it down to this price? And in that time frame, he finally said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you all the keys to all your clients for $50,000.
Well, that sounds like a bargain, considering.
If we wouldn't have already spent all the time restoring everyone's backups and getting them all back up and running.
But would you really trust it though? That's the other side of this coin, like okay, yeah, so we got all the keys, but I would feel so much more comfortable just restoring everything from backup.
That's a part of it too. I mean, there are processes that you make sure you do to verify the keys are going to work. Because essentially what they do is they allow you to, use the key to restore like a folder of files to prove, hey, this does actually decrypt it. So what you do is you send them the encrypted files, right? And then they allow you to decrypt just those to prove that it works.
So here's our QuickBooks file. Like, decrypt this one real quick, and then they decrypt it, and you're like, oh, that's all I needed, suckers.
Yeah. Hey, maybe that's all you needed. So, yeah, I mean, there is that worry. And the other thing to think about, too, is this is a business, right? Like,
which is insane.
How poor, the guy that we were talking with via email, which, by the way, I created a Gmail address to talk with this guy because I didn't want to, give him any more identity than he already had.
The
Gmail address, and I still have it if anyone wants to buy it off me, takenbyransomware@gmail.com. So I'm emailing him from this account, but his attitude was like, he's just, it's almost like the mob where everyone's disconnected from each other, and you've got the marketing department, right, that's sending out these phishing campaigns. And then once someone gets hooked, literally hooked, right, phishing campaign, the marketing department gets their cut, and then they get sent over to tech support, which is literally what this guy said he was. He's like, we've never had an unhappy or dissatisfied customer. He's using verbiage like that. He's here to help us. He wasn't part of initially causing this issue. He's the tech support that's going to help us get out of this issue. That was his position. Yet later he's negotiating prices down, right? Which I thought was kind of funny. But they treat this as a business. So for them to take your money and then not have the keys work harms their business model and their image. And it's going to cause us to tell everyone else in the world, don't pay the ransomware because it won't work. And then now their business model is weakened because they have a bad reputation of their keys not working. Does that make sense? So in a way, they want it to work. As long as they get their money, they want to make sure you get your files back. That's not to say that if you don't patch all your vulnerabilities, they won't try to hit you again 6 months or a year later, right? And try to get more money.
Well, I mean, they know you're dumb enough to do it. So yeah. So
I was reading a stat. It's a $1.5 trillion cybercrime economy right now. I mean, it's literally getting up there with oil, and so it literally is a business. I mean, they want to make sure that they're providing good customer support so that they get paid regularly.
That's insane. And I think that these guys actually have like a customer support department. It makes my blood boil and my stomach turn all at the same time.
Yeah, at the time, I think I was a little crazy, so I kind of laughed at the idea. I was just like, I mean, I used to say building my house was the most stressful thing that I've ever done. But now it's definitely going through that was the most stressful thing. Just having all those clients down, my team, oh my gosh, like if it wasn't for my team, we wouldn't have made it through that. I was worried about an employee walking off the job from the stress, It's not, and because the hard part is it's like technically our fault. So when you call up a client and let them know they've been ransomed, the last thing you want to do is lie about anything. You know what I mean? So we were upfront and honest. Hey, one of our tools that we use to manage your computers was compromised, and it's caused this ransomware infection that we've got to deal with now.
So when you do that, like I know if some companies are breached, they have a requirement to notify customers that PII or other types of information have been potentially taken. With that said, like, were you required to do this by law, like notify your clients?
At the time, no. This is 2018. I wasn't required, but I did it anyway. And I also had, I worked with 2 security companies, one from the insurance company, because I wanted to use someone that they vetted so that they couldn't come back and try to say we did something wrong or didn't do something to try to not fund us somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. And then one afterwards to kind of not only double check our work, but even our network and identify any vulnerabilities left over, which is pretty much all SaaS products that we're dealing with. But we made sure there wasn't any remnants left over, and they identified whether or not there's any data actually taken, right? Data loss is kind of what they call it, when data leaves the environment.
So this sounds like you're paying a company to like audit you basically, right? And is that payment covered by insurance?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the insurance had no problem paying the Bitcoin at all. That was the first thing they paid out, which is why they now have Bitcoin ransomware negotiators.
Sure. They want to save money where they can, those insurance companies.
And to tell you the truth, I'm not one to promote like, hey, paying the ransom is your first go-to, but usually you can quickly identify how quickly you can get the client back up and running. And we've seen issues like the city of Atlanta, where they were stubborn, didn't want to pay the Bitcoin, but maybe didn't realize that, hey, they're going to be down so long, it's going to cost them a ton more money in the downtime than the Bitcoin would have cost, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, sometimes you got to weigh your losses and not be so stubborn and just realize, hey, I got to cut my losses. Yeah, I might be promoting this behavior happening more, but at least I'm not costing all these taxpayers all this extra money, right? And so, that's something to consider. It's not something that I would publish a headline about because, first thing you should do is pay the ransom, because the
of course.
ransomware people love that. And I think 60
absolutely.
Minutes, did something like that last year, which I was kind of disappointed about. But anyway, yeah. So I just lost track of what we were talking about. We went off on
It's okay. So walk me through this. So you are you able to turn your volume down? Because I'm like bleeding through your speakers. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
All right. So you were able to get your insurance company to help you take care of all this stuff, but it still cost you money, but you just got reimbursed for it later, right? So with that said, what does like that auditor type company, what does something like that cost for you to bring out a professional?
Yeah, so we were talking about the security companies. The first one was about $35,000, and they combed all of the client networks that were affected, including ours. And the second one was about $15,000, and that was more of a high-level check. They didn't have to go in depth as much because they were able to use the reports from the other company. And
so they were basically just kind of double checking their work, giving you that second set of eyes, like when you go to a doctor to get that second opinion, right?
Yeah. And they focused more in like on our SaaS products too, to try to help us identify vulnerabilities there. So with the fact that, immediately after this, we moved everything to the cloud. The RMM server we had at the time, the one that was compromised, was technically an in-house server. The new RMM we moved to is a born in the cloud solution. So we immediately moved everything to the cloud. So we didn't have anything on our network anymore. So it was more of like, what are the vulnerabilities of our cloud vendors and integrations? And API keys were a big one. Obviously, MFA was a big one. We still had some of these vendors that didn't support MFA. Luckily, now all of them do. And then API keys now are being supported. We only have one vendor that doesn't have API key integration that we're working to get that set up with. So, understanding how you're accessing, I think the realization is that, the new edge is no longer like a firewall protecting your network. The new edge is your identity. And your identity has access to sensitive information that, if compromised, can be held for ransom, could cause damage. So you have to protect your identity, right? And especially being out in the cloud now, looking at everything you access out in the cloud, and at the very least getting MFA on that, right? Especially if it's anything that contains PII data or compromising data. And then if you have all these tools out in the cloud that are talking to each other, typically you've got to set up accounts, right? Where they're integration accounts they're talking to each other with. And traditionally, APIs don't play nicely with MFA because there's no way for them to, an API doesn't have a mobile phone they can look up a key on, right? Like a user does. So that's why you have these API keys that help identify. That's kind of like with a VPN, certificate, point-to-point verification, or SSL. And so luckily, all of our vendors, except one, are up on that as well. So that then you're kind of covering your access into the tools. And then the next level is kind of looking at whether or not the vendors, what compliances do they have in place? I've heard mixed things about like SOC 2 compliance, how it's very easy to pass and you could still potentially have some vulnerabilities, but there's things like that you could look into. And it at least tells you your vendor cares about security when they're trying to go after something like that. And so, I think that's probably one of the things to consider is if you're going to be using these tools, you want to pick vendors that are security forward and that listen to their partners. And it's hard to find vendors like that are going to give you that much focus if they're not 100% channel focused. Like if they're also selling to consumers, their business, right? So that's one of the things I realized too, as I was going to all these cloud services and kind of picking and choosing vendors and learning which ones I liked and didn't like. I found the ones that were like 100% channel focused were more in line with my wants and needs.
So let me ask you this. You did the ransom for a couple clients. You did a lot of backup recovery for the other clients. Did the insurance company end up like paying the labor on that? Like, how does that work?
Your audio is coming through a little muffled. I don't know if the recording's that way. I just wanted to give you a heads up.
Good to know.
I did hear you though.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I just wanted to know. Okay. So I was just asking, does the insurance company pay you for your labor recovering all these backups and all the things that you had to have your team do to fix this issue?
Yes and no is the best answer, shortest answer there. And to go into more depth, it was definitely like pulling teeth. The insurance company, I'm not naming any vendors during this just because I've learned that gets me into hot water sometimes.
I don't want us to get into hot water.
Yeah.
Let's
because it's not always necessarily the vendor's fault, you know, especially like at this time, like this insurance company might be doing a lot better now than they did 2 years ago with me, right?
Well, this was a kind of a new precedent that you set.
Yeah. So at the time, they didn't even really understand the MSP business model because I was presenting them with two types of losses. First of all, to give you a quick answer on the no for the labor they don't cover, any of my employees that are working full-time, I don't get covered for any of their labor. I did hire 4 people during this to help us remediate it faster. They did pay for their labor. Because that was outside extra labor that was needed, right? But they considered my existing employees like, you're going to pay them no matter what, right? We're not covering any of their labor. But there is loss of income because of this, right? And so that was the other thing I reported. And that was what they had trouble understanding is the difference between our recurring income and our one-time project income. And I literally had to do some research online, and I found this really good website that explained the MSP business model and what recurring income is versus one-time project that I had to send them before they realized, oh, we understand what you're submitting now. Because they paid out my loss of recurring income first, which was based on contracts. Very easy math, right? Sure. It was basically... we lost 3 clients from this, and then there was growth that we missed out on too, right? Which is like a percentage based on previous years. So our recurring income was growing like, if I remember correctly, around 15%, maybe 20%. No. Our profit margin was 15%. Our recurring income was growing 30% year over year for the past 3 years. And they applied that to our current recurring income, and then we projected what we should have made by the end of the year, and then that was considered a loss of growth, right? Along with those contracts. So that was fairly easy math. They paid that out, and I said, well, we've still got this one-time project income that you haven't paid out. And because during this time, like literally for 2 to 3 months, even though it took mainly 2 weeks to remediate, we had most of our projects were put on pause as we had to pick up the pieces from this event and like move, get all the way migrated to our new RMM to prevent that old RMM from, potentially causing an issue again. To get some other tools, like we're literally securing ourselves to prevent something like this from happening again, because we knew the vector. We essentially knew we got caught with our pants down is essentially what happened. That's politically correct to say in this day and age, but that's what it felt like, right? And so we needed to cover all that. So we had, our project income is typically about 30% of our monthly gross income, and so that was a loss as well. And they didn't understand that. They thought, oh no, you've got this contract work. We've already paid you for that. And then that's what I had to fight tooth and nail with. It took about a year, almost a year and a half before I got all my funding. Total losses that I was able to track, which is like gross loss, including my loss of growth, was about $500,000, right? That's why I look back at that $50,000 to get all the keys. I would have loved to pay that. Hard losses, like money out of the bank, was about $250K.
And are we saying that these need to be added together?
No.
Okay, so the gross, the $500,000, that's all everything overall, but actual money out of the bank is $250,000.
About half of that, yeah.
Okay.
And then the bank ended up funding us $150K.
The bank or insurance?
I'm sorry, the insurance company. Yes.
Wow.
So, we had $100K hard loss and, $350K gross loss. And to give you an idea of numbers, we were on track to do $1.8 million that year in 2018. Firm, we had 13 employees and about 75 clients across 2,000 guys referenced there. And we ended the year at 1.5 million. So we ended the year negative 300K from our projected turnout.
Just so you know, the internet connection cut out. So I heard 75 clients across. And then you came back saying that you lost, you're at 1.5. So I think you might have been about to tell me how many endpoints maybe?
Yeah. So 13 employees, 75 clients, 2,000 endpoints. We were on track to do 1.8 million for 2018, the year we got breached, and we finished at 1.5 million. Okay. Which is a 300K loss, yeah.
You got to say though, let's try and be positive about this. Man, you got breached. You got your ass handed to you, right? Like an employee screwed up, and an employee of yours got fished. Did you fire the employee?
No.
Are they still there today?
They're still there today, yeah.
Good for you, man.
I didn't fire any employees through this. There is a lot of, I was talking to some MSPs online that when I'm talking to them about my financials, they're like, get rid of employees because you're not making any money. I had a negative 2% profit margin that year. And I was like, no, these employees got me through this. The last thing I want to do is fire anyone from a team who helped my MSP survive this breach. This is a going out of business event that could have been, right?
Absolutely could have. So that's what I mean. Let's look at this in a positive way. You could have had your business absolutely destroyed. This could have given you some bad local news press. This could have just shit all over your name, but it didn't. You did all the right things, even though you didn't necessarily know what to do, because again, for you, it was unprecedented, right? So you brought in experts that knew how to do this. You had 2 companies come in and basically audit everything and verify that, all right, you guys are safe, you're in the clear, you did everything you needed to do. They might have given you a list of some other things to do, and then you did it. You lost 3 clients out of 75. That's not bad, man. And because you were in the middle of a migration from one RMM to another, only half of your clients got hit. So and out of those clients that got hit, you had backups for everything but 2 clients. So I think this shows that an MSP that's doing, mid to high $1 million, right, range, even an MSP of that size can just have an epic screw up. And that we're talking about an MSP that has a bunch of employees, that has a bunch of brains, right, that are all able to think about, hey, what should we be doing for our clients just on a regular basis? And with all of those brains, a couple things got either overlooked or put on the back burner just long enough for somebody to sneak in and screw you guys, right?
Yeah.
Think about what would have happened to a smaller MSP. Maybe an MSP doing $500,000, $250,000. An MSP doing $180,000, this would have shut them down. They would have lost half their clients or something because they don't even have all the tools probably that you had. And I bet you've got a lot more tools now. I bet this probably changed your mind about some things and kind of changed your perspective on how you operate your MSP.
Yeah. Yep.
So talk to me about that.
So, I want to touch on the PR side real quick because I think we got lucky. This was early in the game before a lot of MSPs were getting targeted or that it at least made the news. So the fact that we communicated with our clients, which we still feel like we could have done a better job of that, and we're honest, we didn't really have our clients reaching out to people other than us saying, what's going on? iTech, we're down. We can't get a hold of iTech, right? There's been some MSPs that ghost their clients. And then all of a sudden the clients were reaching out to the general public trying to figure out what's going on. So it never hit the news. We did have a PR company on standby that the insurance company was willing to pay for to help clean up our image and kind of,
which is awesome,
what happened. So that's definitely something we had geared up and ready to go, but luckily we didn't have to deal with that. But yeah, it was definitely a moment of reflection for me. It was realizing that, especially after going through the exercise of sending the insurance company our loss of recurring income versus project, it opened my eyes up to the fact that, wow, man, I've got a business model that's got recurring income that covers all my expenses plus a little profit. And the project stuff is really where we get the majority of our profit from. And so my concern was, I realized I was doing it wrong in the sense that I was so focused on getting new clients and growing my business, adding on new clients. There was focus taken away from securing my existing income that I had already worked so hard to obtain, right? I already had a decent amount of recurring income, which just by itself creates a pipeline of projects to keep all our clients up to date with new technologies, especially with the Office 365 push. And then moving out to the cloud, of course, some of our clients still aren't 100% out in the cloud. And so I literally went 2 years, in fact, still haven't. We're going to be, because of this COVID situation, we were just going to start marketing this year to take on new clients. We haven't taken on any new clients for 2 years. We've literally been reposturing ourselves as a security first MSP, learning about what layers we want to have in place, what kind of stacks and service tools we want to use to keep our clients secure. The first thing we did was make ourselves secure, right? And then now we're going back to our existing client base over all this time, and we still have some clients that we need to address, and getting them secure with this same stack, because we were a vector that break into an MSP and you have access to multiple clients, right? Mm-hmm. We protected that, and now with we're drinking our own champagne, but we got to share that champagne with our clients. You know what I mean?
This guy, it's not even Kool-Aid, it's champagne.
And because we could have a client overnight potentially go out of business. And then that's existing recurring income. That's low hanging fruit that we already have. That's much easier to keep than trying to find replacement income that we need to secure and make more sticky. And, so that was something too over the past 2 years that really opened my eyes up too, is like, we've grown with our existing client base. We got back up to that 1.8 million in 2019.
Good for you.
So we went from the 1.5 million 2018 negative 2% profit margin to a 1.8 million, and we were like 5% profit margin positive, right? 2019. And so it was 2019 was really digging ourselves out of the hole and getting back on track.
So what, just curious, what was your profit margin in 2019?
5%.
Okay.
Which is low, right? I mean, we previously, before this event, we were getting 15%.
Well, but I just want to clarify, that is even like after you pay yourself, right?
Well, the reason that that's low is because we invested in a lot of security tools we didn't have previously, and a lot of these have initial buy-ins that, we're reselling to our clients. So we have expenses up front that we paid for that we have yet to reap the benefits from, the rewards from, until we get it deployed and sold to our clients. But I think the reason I care less about the 5% profit margin is just because we got back up to that number. When I saw the 1.5 million, that set us back like a year and a half on our growth model. And then we were able to re-catch up and only be, technically, I guess, a year behind, but back where we started before this event. And in my opinion, much better positioned to where I don't care as much about growth anymore. I was getting that 30% year over year growth. I care more about efficiency with how we deliver and manage our services to our existing clients and making sure security layers are in place. And I care more about profit margin with my existing business than I do growth with new business. So that's what I'm working on fine tuning right now, is I've got all this low hanging fruit, existing clients that I could help out more and fine tune profit margin with through efficiencies and security services.
So let's talk about that for a second. So you brought on 0 new clients since all of this went down. You lost 3. You got yourself back up to the 1.8 million. And your profit margin's lower. However, you've spent a boatload of money on SaaS apps and solutions, products, whatever we want to call it, right? And all this money that you spent on this stuff, you might not have even necessarily deployed it to clients, but you're paying for it because, a plethora of reasons. You need to learn it. You need to figure out how to sell it. You need to figure out how to position it. You need to actually have time to get in front of the clients to do that. So, I mean, I'm not gonna say it's one of those things. It's all of those things, But with that said, you gotta start working on getting new clients. And you and I have been talking about that a lot over the last few months. But what when you go out and you buy all this security stuff, what are you looking for? Like, what kind of boxes are you trying to check off? Why are you going out and buying all this other security stuff? All we need is antivirus, some MFA, and DNS filtering, and ISOPOS firewall, and that's all we need, right?
Yeah. Well, the other item that you forgot to mention is the money I wasted on security tools that I thought I wanted to use and decided not to.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
So when I came out of this, I had this and I still have it to a degree, this PTSD, about never wanting something like that to happen again. So initially I came out of this going, you know what? We're going to become an MSSP. And so That
I remember a group of us, including me even, were giving you a really hard time by calling yourself an MSSP, but you aren't an MSSP. You're not a managed security services provider. You're an MSP with a focus on security.
That's ultimately what I, ended up with, a security first MSP. But, and it was part of it, it was me being naive on what it really takes to be an MSSP, but wanting to be one so that I felt more secure, right? So, I reached out to tons of forums and communities trying to figure out what security layers do I need to be worried about, and what potential tools or best practices can I implement to cover those vulnerabilities, right? And so it was good and bad, the exercise of wanting to be an MSSP. It was good because I had this motivation and this drive to want to create the best security stack out there, right? It's like, if I'm going to become an MSSP, I got to check all the boxes. Mm-hmm. So I created this huge stack, learned about a ton of products, talked with CISOs, with some of our vendors, reached out to different communities, got feedback, got trolled, got feedback, got trolled. And
I'm noticing a trend.
That's part of learning, right? You got to get trolled a little bit. And otherwise, you're not talking to people that are smarter than you with egos. So,
so true.
So anyway, I ended up creating this huge stack, and then I looked at my client base, and I was like, all right, I got to go sell this to my clients now. And I realized a couple things. Number one, if I'm going to call myself an MSSP, I really need to have security professionals on staff, people that live and breathe security, like a SOC type situation, right? Their nose is in logs, looking at SIM, identifying false positives, shaping network behavior. Like it's literally a different echelon of employee than anything I have on staff, and they're expensive employees, right, to bring in. And if I don't have enough work for them, now I'm spending too much money and I'm not making profit. So it didn't make sense for my current business model, especially in the area I am, because there's not enough demand for it. It made more sense to partner with an MSSP and have them do a lot of that heavy lifting, right? And then become a security first MSP. And then even in that realization, I still had this huge stack that I created of all these security services. And by the time you price it all out and you go to try to sell it to these clients that basically all they had was email security and antivirus before, which is typically what people tend to have, they're just overwhelmed. And no matter how much fear, uncertainty, and doubt you try to feed to them about they need all of this, some companies could go out of business paying for security. There's so much security out there. So it made me realize I had to pare it down. And that's what I've been working on. I feel like I've got to a good point now, paring down to the bare necessities, which kind of is our like entry-level bronze package, if you will. And then I've got like I'm using bronze, silver, gold just to help identify the three layer. I'm not set on that. But, and then like the gold would be more like an enterprise, a larger client, maybe a co-managed client that's large enough to need some of these more advanced security services. And then these more advanced security services, we're not necessarily delivering them. We're reselling them from an MSSP who's managing the back end, because any enterprise security product isn't really MSP friendly to manage. It's going to cause too many false positives that's going to weigh your team down, and just overwhelm them and not allow them to keep their eye on the ball. And so you really need, like, back to the point, you need that professional that lives and breathes this, that can quickly identify and help you shape that network behavior. So that's kind of what I've come to today, and was, we're looking at going to the co-managed space as well, trying that out. We've got a couple co-managed clients out right now that we like how it's working. But ultimately, whatever we do is security first, and identifying upfront what those security vulnerabilities are with our clients so that we can create some sort of plan to shore up their security within a decent amount of time.
All right. So what's your stack? That's the tough question. You got like 27 tools, right? Some like ridiculous number that's in your stack.
So I think what I came to realize too is that you can't really, it's not about finding a tool for every vulnerability. It's not just about tools. There's a good chunk of tools we use to help us mitigate and cover vulnerabilities that are out there. But I think ultimately what I've learned, if you think about the fact that identity is the new edge, it's no longer a firewall. You really have to come up with some stack you're going to standardize your clients on around user management and device management. And so the stack that we've picked is the Microsoft stack with Azure AD and Intune. And so that's our big push, is to initially get all of our existing clients, and then any new client that comes on board, it's like a requirement that we've got them on Azure AD. If they've got in-house domain controllers, we're doing the AD sync. We still want them on Azure AD. And then Intune, because at that point, you've got a single source of truth for understanding all the users you're responsible for managing and all the devices you're responsible for managing. Because
that is a phrase or a term that you just love. Single source of truth.
I've only said it once so far.
Today, yes. Privately, you've said that hundreds of times, though, I'm sure of it. So I don't think a single source of truth exists, Brian. And the reason I say that is, so you've got your Microsoft 365 stuff, which is a very, very long list of tools, right? But it includes Intune. You've got your PSA. You've got your RMM. Some people have got their Bright Gauge or some type of dashboarding tool. You've got your client engagement tool, whether that's EnviroSoft or Cloud Radial, Tech Director. There's probably a couple others, or maybe it's a combination of all of them. Who knows? But there is no such thing as a single source of truth, because not one of these things aggregates information from every single thing.
But that's exactly why you need to pick something to be your single source of truth. If you think about it, what are you responsible for managing, maintaining, and securing? You're right. You've got all of these tools. Mm-hmm. You're never going to be 100% perfect where every user and every device is on every tool.
Right.
But if you come up with a stack that you're going to consistently deploy, and you're going to say, okay, we can't support that new user or that new device until at least this gets installed, you can create a single source of truth that then you're hoping to eventually integrate all these other tools with, so that you're not having double entry, human error, where things aren't getting inputted or at least showing up on a list telling you, hey, there's this new user that we've synchronized with Azure that you need to do XYZ with in this tool now, right? So you're right. I mean, you're right to an extent, in the sense that not all these tools talk to each other. But if we're talking about wanting to get towards a single source of truth, you can make that happen with at least one tool set, and then work towards getting all your other tools to integrate in a way where they can synchronize and create an easier way to keep them all updated, if that makes sense.
It does. It almost sounds like you're going to pigeonhole yourself into certain tools, though, because it does sound like you're looking for tools that will work with certain tools, right?
Yeah, and that's something that a lot of MSPs are reluctant to do. And it even took me a while. It's kind of that entrepreneurial stubbornness. Like, do I really want to have all of my clients relying on Microsoft? But if you look at the big picture, it's what, Microsoft or Google? I mean, if you're talking about virtualized environments, AWS, or like creating your own or using a third party. And in my opinion, Microsoft, just with their advancements in Office 365, Teams, I'm going to bring it up, Teams.
You do love your Teams.
And the fact that all my clients have an on-prem Microsoft AD, like they're pushing everyone out to Azure AD. Like eventually you won't have on-prem ADs anymore. And it just kind of made sense. So yeah, I'm drinking the Microsoft Kool-Aid, if you will, and just realizing that's what I need to standardize on if I want to make my life easier. I'm not fighting that, I guess is what. And then yeah, any other tools I get, I mean, I would imagine Microsoft's a big enough name, they're going to want to have some sort of integration, right? Eventually.
Okay, so you brought up Teams. We're gonna change because ADD is real. Okay, guys, it's real. It's a real thing. All right, so Teams. You love Teams. You brought it up. I think I didn't keep count. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm pretty sure it was at least 57 times in the last podcast we did. You love Teams, and you are using Teams Voice. Or we're just going to call it that, whether that's what they call it or not. But you're using Teams like telephony, right? You and I did talk briefly in the last one about how BVoIP, George is actually working on. Well, it's not that he's working on. He's already got it working, but BVoIP can kind of like integrate with Teams. So did you look at that at all?
Yeah, so that does, I reached out to him the next day on another webinar we were on together. I forget which one it was.
Oh, that's
so
funny.
I was privately, Zoom chatting him. And it looks like it does currently require like a backend PBX, which makes sense because you can't integrate an existing PBX with Teams, which we may eventually do. I really like the idea of being able to do screen pops with my AutoTask PSA.
Right.
So
it's a really cool sounding feature.
And we had that because we were on 3CX before with BVoIP, and then we lost that as part of Teams. But now, if you think about it, well, why don't we get AutoTask PSA to integrate with Teams? So I'm pushing for that. It's one of the things on my list.
Good for you.
Yeah.
So are you going to do it? You're going to do the BVoIP and Teams voice thing?
It's not at the top of my list right now because I have other irons in the fire, especially with the COVID situation. So it depends. We'll see. It's something I'm entertaining, but like if AutoTask does an integration somehow, or they've got it on the roadmap, I might just wait for that.
Okay. All right. So let's see. You kind of started talking about your stack, and I am sure I cut you off at some point.
Yeah.
So run through like the software real quick, and then I don't know that people necessarily need the history of each thing necessarily.
Yeah, I understand. So just to get back to the Microsoft stack, single source of truth for users and devices, that really gives you the ability to then go to like an SSO solution for your clients, where you can even do zero trust when it comes to like device security. So not only is this user logging in with a set of user credentials that are protected by MFA, but are they also logging in from an approved device that has Intune on it, right? So it actually gives you that extra layer of security with, that you could even combine with trusted locations, right? IP addresses and things like that. So that's because I feel like securing the identity is the lowest hanging fruit. That's one of the first things we want to get deployed. Now there's other things too. there's email security, but when you look at the Microsoft stack, it does a lot of built-in security on its own, depending on what licensing level you have, that in some cases we just need to augment. So that's the other thing I like about the Microsoft stack is we don't need as many tools when you're using that and embracing the higher level of licensing that it has. So we do use the built-in Office 365 email security as the first line of defense. And then we've got an API integrated email security that helps with phishing. Evade Secure is what we're using for that. And then we've got, password management for our clients that we resell them. Obviously, dark web scanning.
What password management is that? Like the Passportal stuff, IT Glue stuff?
Oh yeah. So I'll talk vendors since that's what you do, right? Talk vendors. We're talking good about vendors. So,
yeah, we can talk good all day long. I mean,
so password management is Passportal. We went to that for documentation too, and we came from IT Glue, and I wanted to have everything in one place. I liked Passportal because it started out as a password manager. So that was really built around that, even though it isn't as feature rich as IT Glue with the documentation. They're getting there, and they've got things on their roadmap. But really what I liked is the ease of reselling it to our clients to use as a password management system, because one of the things I was telling my clients is, we have no idea how strong all your end user passwords are unless they're stored in some sort of encrypted database. And then we can run reports on how strong they are, how stale they are, and without that, we have no idea. I mean, we could set policies that require strong passwords, but that's a lot of work to do across all the products they're doing, and you might miss some where they're using weak passwords. And
so if you get them to buy on to using the password manager tool, like we not you, but like I use LastPass. Yeah. A lot of people, a lot of MSPs are using some type of password manager tool, because if you're a smart person, you've got a different password for every single thing you log into. Otherwise, you're going to be in a lot of trouble when you get phished. Ask Brian what that's like. So yeah, I mean, you can't remember all that unless you do something really stupid, like same password, and then you just like one exclamation point. Like you got like 5 variations of and then the other thing though is like, you mentioned stale passwords. That is one thing that kind of grinds my gears. Like the whole stale password thing. So if it's a good, solid, strong password, I'm okay with a password, living for a year, but it's got to be like, 27 characters and at least 3 of every single, lowercase, uppercase, number, symbol. Just I get ridiculous, and I get so pissed off. I don't know if you saw the other day in Slack, I posted in the main channel, American Express, we take security seriously. Also American Express, they would not allow me to have symbols in my password. So it has to be at least 8 characters, 1 number, 1 uppercase, 1 lowercase, no symbols.
Yeah.
Like why?
You can't even do a passphrase with 8 character limitation.
So, no, it's at least 8 characters, not at most.
Oh, okay.
But then there's the other ones, and I don't remember what I just logged into the other day or created an account for, but it wouldn't let me have more than 20 characters. I'm like, screw you, I'll do 96 if I want to. Like, I don't understand. Why would you limit how long? Like, okay, make it 150. Don't be stupid. Don't make it 20. Those just make me. Those are the things that really grind my gears, people.
Microsoft recognized that too, because they took off of their best practice list the idea of resetting your password every 90 days.
Well, I believe that's because who else? recently they changed their minds on it. Like the NSA or whatever recently said, you know what? It's actually okay to not change your password every night. Because what people were doing was they'll come up with a really good password. Like, I don't know, what's your dog's name, Brian?
Bella.
Bella, okay, cool. What's your date of birth? What was the first car you owned, Brian?
Mercedes.
Man, he's just given up personally identifiable for. I am going to be able to start recovering passwords for you, Brian. You're good at this. Let's keep going. What's your mother's maiden name?
I don't use any of those.
Oh, okay. I don't remember what I was. Oh, my Apple ID. Because I'm a big Apple guy. I've got my iPhone here, my Beats headphones, my iPad Pro, a MacBook. I'm Apple everything, man. If Apple made a car, I'd figure out how to have it. So I was setting up a new Apple ID to help a church do this developer account thing, so they can push out a custom app for their church. Okay, cool. Pays the bills, right? So I had to set up that new Apple ID, and it had all those weird questions. Was the first car you owned? What was your school mascot? I don't even remember why I started on this path, Brian. Why did we start this?
Just because those are security question answers that I just gave you, right? That I might potentially use.
Yeah, and I don't remember what I was talking about before I even started teasing you and asking you those questions.
People use those in their passwords.
Oh, well. Yes. So that was the thing, though. So, like, people will use, Bella, 1984, whatever year you were born, right? And then, you got to change your password. It's been 90 days. Okay, Bella, 1984, 1. and that's what they do. They just add a number at the end and change the number every time. And if that's all they're going to do, what's the point? So
the other issue is they end up forgetting it, so then it causes downtime. Or if they are using strong passwords, they're writing them down like on a Post-it.
That's the best thing to do, actually. But it's okay, because you as long as you stick it to the bottom of the keyboard. Don't stick it on the desk under the keyboard. You got to stick it to the bottom of the keyboard. That when they move the keyboard and look on the desk, the people are like, it's not there. They don't flip over the keyboard, Brian.
Yep.
Yeah. You just got to outsmart these criminals.
Yeah, I wish browsers would store passwords in an encrypted manner, because that's kind of the eye-opener for me when I learned more about security through all this as well. All of our clients are storing passwords in browsers.
Isn't Google encrypted?
They do that now with you're right. They did add that recently, linked to your Google account. Yeah. I believe so. Don't quote me on that, but I remember.
I don't know.
But I guess what I'm getting at is, when we
Apple encrypts your passwords. So if you store your passwords in Safari, or which it's actually you're storing them to your iCloud account somehow, they're actually encrypted.
Yeah.
So
I think the issue, even with the encrypted passwords with Google, is you open up your Chrome browser and you're logged in, and you can still export your passwords, right? And the idea of your passwords being stored in a text form on the computer is if anyone ever gains access to your computer, they can quickly copy those. Well, now you're encrypting them, but you're leaving a user login session the minute you open a browser. It's not asking for your credentials every time you open a browser. Mm. So even though they're encrypted, right? So when the computer's turned off, they're safe. When you're not booted into that user profile, they're safe. But when you're in on that user profile, the fact that you're auto logged in, they're exposed, right?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, back to the security tools. You want to run through those?
Yeah, do it, man. Sorry.
So, dark web monitoring. Where you just stop me if you want to go into detail on any of these. We're doing ID agent. Mm-hmm. phishing, email, security. Oh, that was Bait Secure. Simulated phishing attacks and security awareness training. We're using KnowBe4 on that. We've got our next generation endpoint management, which is Cylance. That's actually an enterprise product that's managed by our MSSP. DNS filtering, we're using DNS Filter. Love those guys. We do have like a managed wireless. I don't know if you consider that security, but we present it as it's cloud managed by us. So the two products we're using right now are Datto and Meraki that we like. Endpoint detection and response, and vulnerability scanning and intrusion detection, SIM, are all services managed by our MSSP too. It's kind of a bundle for those higher level clients, like say in a gold package or silver for some of them. And they use Cyber Reason, Logarithm, and Event Tracker, which there are better SIM products out there than Event Tracker. And we kind of, one of the tricky things is like, we've got all these tools now, and there could be a better tool that comes out 1 to 2 years from now. So I try not to get too stuck on, these are the tools that everyone has to use. Like there's other tools out there that are comparable to the tools I'm naming off that I wouldn't necessarily say don't use that, and from my opinion. There's certain aspects of these tools that made me want to use them. I think one of the biggest things is any tool that you're managing in-house, how easy is it to deploy, to train your staff on, to make sure you're using that tool properly? Because a tool is useless if your staff struggles to implement it or manage or maintain it. And then some of these enterprise level tools, like I said, you could fail at them and it'd be worse than not having them at all. So you kind of want an MSSP to be there for you to handle the heavier lifting there. Managed firewall for us, we don't have this deployed across all our clients. And in my opinion, kind of back to my earlier comment, I think identity and device security is more important. We focus on getting all of those layers in before a firewall, unless maybe it's a really huge network. Mainly because we try to treat our devices and users like they're out in the wild. We have no idea what network they could potentially be on. So we don't want to rely on a firewall or a router to be providing services that they don't have, protection that they don't have either with their identity or with their device, so that they could essentially be floating on any network. So we've got, Meraki and Sophos is the other one that we're looking at there. But again, that's not really low-hanging fruit for us. That's more after we've done a lot of these other items, then we look into that. BCDR stuff, definitely Datto. And for our Office 365 cloud backup, we're doing the Backupify from Datto. They've come along with that.
I think you might be the only person I've ever heard call it BCDR. So I've always heard it as BDR. So I figure I better clarify that just for the people that are like, wait, what's that? It's just business continuity, disaster recovery, BCDR.
Yeah, if you're familiar with the Datto products, and more products out there are doing this. But what I really liked about the Datto products, and the reason I call it BCDR, is because if the server and the local backup device goes down, you literally can spin it up into the cloud. So it's got a continuity aspect to it, where we can still be running even if the building burns down.
Datto's got a hell of a good product, man.
Yeah.
Well, products. They've got a whole bunch of products now, but they've got some good products.
It's interesting being that we're on the Microsoft stack. you'd think, hey, we're like embracing SharePoint and OneDrive.
Mm-hmm.
And we do to an extent of the Teams integration, back to Teams. But we actually like Data Workplace for a file sync and share product better than what SharePoint and OneDrive has to offer, especially from a data governance position. When you look at the cost of licensing from Microsoft to get the advanced data governance, you're looking at a minimum of like $42 a user, because you have to get the E3 plus the compliance. That's the cheapest way.
I never thought of it like that. But with Datto, let's call it, $10-15 a user is your cost on that. Do you get the terabyte per user like Microsoft gives?
Data Workplace has switched to unlimited.
Now we're talking.
Another thing that's amazing, right? Unlimited storage. Now they've got like some file, not necessarily limitations, but if you get up to too many files, which again is still larger than SharePoint, OneDrive, they have like a clause in their support, like they don't support more than that amount, but it's like an enormous amount where it's like you're just data hoarding. Like you need to clean up your data on a per user basis.
So with that, all right, so Data Workplace for the everyday person, everyday MSP, it sounds like Data Workplace might tick off some more boxes than Microsoft could, simply because of pricing. If we're looking at the Datto price versus the Microsoft price, you can get one and check off all the boxes, or you can spend 3 or 4 times as much and continue to check off all the boxes.
Yeah, so cost to our clients, it's $35 a user to get the Microsoft Business Premium. Well, it used to be called Microsoft 365 Business. Now it's Microsoft 365 Business Premium,
right?
Which is their $20 license, right? It comes with Azure AD, Intune, everything else that you need. And then the $15 a month for Data Workplace, they're at $35 a month, and so they're saving $7 a month per user. And Data Workplace is much easier to configure, maintain, use, even for the end user. Like our clients are able to look up their own audit trails and identify access to with very little to no training. I mean, the interface is very intuitive for when it comes to that.
What about if someone's got a smaller hard drive, lots of files? Are they able to say, like, these files are online only, but synchronize these for offline usage?
Yeah, so they just recently added a feature where it gives you the full folder and file tree the minute you connect. And then it's got little status icons for what's online only and what's downloaded. And you can pick and choose what you want to be local, or you could have none of it be local. And then as you access each file, it on demand downloads it, you work with it, save it, and then it re-uploads the changes and then removes the file from your computer to free up the space.
That's the ticket right there, because like I know I've got some clients that are all about Dropbox. They just love their Dropbox, and Dropbox even has that smart storage feature, whatever they call it now, and it doesn't do that.
Yeah,
it's not as smart as Data Workplace from what I'm hearing. So I'm going to look into that.
The other thing I like about Data Workplace is if you ever have a client that might have a hybrid environment where they're using G Suite, maybe they've got the free version grandfathered in, right? Like we are. And Office 365, it integrates with both platforms. So you could use Google Docs to manage files from Data Workplace, or you could use Office 365.
Nice.
And then they're also working on a Teams integration, so that just like you have access to your SharePoint files in Teams, you can have access to your Data Workplace file as well.
Very nice. What else you got on that list? We didn't go through everything yet, did we?
We went through the majority of it, but some other items we use. So like remote desktop access, we've used LogMeIn forever, and that's just kind of what we've used. So like during this latest COVID expansion of work from home, the majority of our clients who weren't already in the cloud, we just set up with LogMeIn to their workstation, and then it made us care less about their home network.
It's only $1,000 a month per computer, right?
We charge $10 a month for our clients.
I feel like you're undercharging just based on what LogMeIn charges.
Well, that's one of the, yeah, you're right. I mean, if you go to their website, if the client went direct, they'd have to pay more.
Mm-hmm.
But we've used them so long, we've got some grandfathered in pricing, so we're able to,
nice,
outbid them. So, if we're ever in a situation where we got cloud file and folder backups or cloud image backups, we've used the Datto products for that as well. So that's kind of covers the backup, remote desktop. For a tool we just signed up for is Cloud Radial. That's going to kind of be one of our new client-facing portals and integrations. And through that, we're going to deliver e-learning. They have an integration with Bigger Brains, which is pretty awesome.
Yes, they do. That I think they actually just launched that after I did the podcast recording with Jeff.
Yeah. I like that a lot because the interface to Bigger Brains seems a little outdated, like the direct interface. So when I'm selling my clients e-learning and I'm giving them this older interface, it's kind of like, are you sure this is the best e-learning courses I should be using? But yeah, the Cloud Radial integration, when he showed me that, I don't have it completely set up yet, is pretty amazing.
That's really cool.
So, I mean, as far as like MFA stuff, we haven't really adopted Duo. We're setting people up with Authy or Microsoft Authenticator, are the two that we've gone with there.
Personally, Authy is my choice. I avoid the Microsoft and Google Authenticator apps only because I like that Authy synchronizes all those codes and everything to the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like they do a much better version.
And the Microsoft Authenticator has started to support that now. And the thing I think we're going to find is less people supporting Authy, because I've come to find through certain vendors that it costs a pretty penny for the vendor to be able to support Authy. Like they actually have to pay Authy for the ability to use their app. So that was an interesting thing I learned. Risk assessments and penetration testing, we have our MSSP do that. That was another thing that as I was building out our security service, I was like, do you really want the company providing your security services also telling you you're secure? Like it seemed like a conflict of interest, right? So I think any MSP, just for due diligence, if you're going to offer those types of services, you can still resell them, right? But don't offer them directly. Like, don't have your team be the one doing the risk assessment and penetration testing. It should really be a third party, especially with certain types of penetration tests, right? Some tests, you don't want the vendor knowing much about the client because you want them to pretend like they're an outside hacker that knows very little. And there's like social engineering and things like that they'll make use of to try to gain information that if you already knew that information, you wouldn't waste the time trying to look for it that way, right?
Very cool, man. Yeah. Well, Brian, I am so thankful that you were able to pop on here with me today. I learned a lot. I suspect a lot of people are going to learn a lot today. And I mean, you're just an MSP like us. I mean, you're not here like you're not pitching anything. You don't have some service for MSPs or anything like that, right?
No. I mean, I am. Ever since this happened, I've been going to events, talking where I can, sharing my story, being part of webinars. What I've learned is that the more I share my story and the things that I know to be true, I'm going to steal this from Ken from PAX 8, but there is no silver bullet out there, right? There's no perfect answer or solution. But there is everyone's experience and what they've found to work. And through that, I get to know people, I network, I get to hear other people's stories, and I learn a lot quicker on how to prevent mistakes, right? Like, it helps me get over my entrepreneurial stubbornness when I hear things from other entrepreneurs about what they've done. Like, I'm more open-minded and willing to listen, because I realize that I want to do this the easy way, not the hard way. I don't want to reinvent the wheel, right? Mm-hmm. And because there is no silver bullet, no matter what some MSPs may think out there, no one's got the perfect solution, right? There is no perfect solution out there, especially when it comes to security. Things are changing so much. Even if you could deem, yes, I've got the perfect solution today, tomorrow it's no longer the perfect solution.
Hey, so real quick, sorry to interrupt. It's Thursday, April 16th. It's 1:30 p.m. Eastern. And I just saw U.S. Small Business Rescue Loan Program hits $350 billion cap, government says. So the PPP is run out of funds.
Man.
Wow. And I wonder what that means. Like, so, and we don't have to discuss numbers, but I know, for example, you and I both applied. Okay. I have not even yet had a chance to have the conversation with the bank or anything. Like, I think it was submitted. So I know that the SBA is currently unable to accept new applications for the PPP program, Paycheck Protection Program, based on available appropriations funding. So does that mean mine is included or not? It sounds like you already got yours.
Yeah, the best thing I could offer is my experience and kind of what I went through. So I submitted mine the day it opened. I was told I was approved about 3 business days later. But all that means is that they've earmarked the money for you.
Gotcha.
And maybe they've earmarked the money even if they haven't told you you're approved yet. I don't want people to worry that maybe you didn't get your money if you're not told you're approved. But I was told 100% that when I was approved, it was definitely earmarked.
Right.
It then took another week and a half, because I was so early in the process, for them to just get the loan paperwork together for me to sign. Because there are certain forms that I guess hadn't even been created yet. Mm-hmm. And then I signed it over DocuSign and got the funds within 2 business days. So it's about, I'd say, almost a 2-week process for someone who submitted the day of through my bank that I went through. Obviously, it's different for different banks.
Well, and what's crazy is PPP allows up to $10 million per qualifying employer. And if you think they had $350 billion with a B, but some businesses were getting approved for 10 million with an M, and $1 billion is 100 of those businesses. So there's really, like, if and we know there's plenty, we know there's plenty of huge companies that could qualify for a $10 million loan. There's a hell of a lot more tiny companies that might only get approved for a $50,000 or $200,000 loan, right? But there are plenty of companies that could get approved for that $10 million loan at 1% nonetheless. So it's no shock to me that they ran out. I'm surprised that it finally run out now, not finally. I'm surprised that it took this long to run out. So, yeah. This probably honestly won't even get posted until like Monday, maybe Saturday. I got to take a look. So, I mean, this is going to be old news by the time it gets posted. But yeah, this is not a surprise. It sucks. Yeah, I got nothing. I just thought I'd bring it up.
It's one of the reasons I applied so quickly. Is just because I didn't want to dilly-dally around, especially going through a security breach 2 years ago and having that financial squeeze. I was like, great, I don't want to go through another financial squeeze. But I do have mixed feelings about it, in the sense that I feel bad that it's not necessarily the people that need it the most that are getting it. It's literally whoever got there first in line. You know what I mean? And I knew from the start there wasn't going to be enough money, especially like you said, with that $10 million cap. And then you hear that they got turned down trying to get the additional funding, right? It's like this partisan thing that's happening. You know, we've got two political parties fighting against each other at that's ultimately hurting the small businesses of America, you know? So, it's like, I guess my mixed feeling is like, I feel great. I feel lucky I got it. I know it's going to help us get through this and not have another financial pinch like we had 2 years ago. But I feel bad for the MSPs or even other businesses in general that needed it more than me and didn't get a chance to get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it's unfortunate, to say the least. So I'll just open this up, and I just have one thing to share because of this. And then I think now's a good time for us to wrap up and, go wallow in our sorrows because we can't hug anybody. What about all the people that applied that haven't even heard back yet? Womp womp.
Well, and to be fair, though, those are all Republicans in that picture.
Oh, I don't actually. I think I see H.W. Bush.
Yeah, and I think I saw Reagan too. So
yeah. So I didn't even know who was in the picture. I just know I literally said in the chat, I said, what about all the people that applied that haven't even heard back yet? And someone said, well, I've got an answer to that question for you. And then he put that up there. I'm pretty sure he just made it real quick, copy and pasted what I put in the chat to be a smart ass. So
but it's a popular photo that's been used, but technically Republicans were trying to get more money. Not to turn this into a political thing, but
yeah, we don't need to. Yeah, yesterday's the one that's going to get posted before this will be political enough, and you're gonna laugh and laugh and laugh when you watch it, or just get really angry and throw a computer across the room. I don't know which one. But I will say I really enjoyed yesterday's podcast recording. I really enjoyed today. I loved hearing your story. Brian, I do hope you'll come back sometime and we can talk more security. You can tell me all the things I need to do to become an MSSP. Yes, I'm trolling you right now in public, in front of people. I'm sorry. Yeah. It's all love, Brian. It's all love. Yep. All right. Hey, anything else you want to share with anyone?
Hang in there through this time, right? I mean, I guess we didn't touch much on the COVID stuff, but I touched on a struggle I went through 2 years ago to do with the breach. We're all going through another struggle right now. Mm-hmm. This is a great time to build and rebuild relationships with existing clients, just being for them. It's going to pay off down the road. And even if you didn't get the government funding, hopefully you can find a way to get through this. I just feel really bad for all the small businesses out there that are getting affected by this shutdown. So keep your head up.
Yes, I agree. Keep your head up. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Please, for the love of God, don't go out unless you need to, because there are crazy people out there. I want to say this: if you are if you're interested in joining a peer group for MSPs to grow their business and just be accountable with somebody, check out RocketMSP, the link below in the description. Thanks so much, guys. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.